Hi guys, it's Miss M. This is my first video for our class together, and it took me a little while to figure out how to record it. The last time I did this, I could open up YouTube and click a button and start recording, but that technology is gone, which freaks me out a little bit that it's been that long since I recorded a video. To get us started, the first thing I'm going to do is look over the last few slips of paper that we had from our conversation in class last Wednesday. And I'm just going to talk through these little questions. I'm also going to post the pictures that I took of the whiteboard with my notes on it. So if you need to go back and look at that, you can. But just to remind you, I had a series of questions. I gave each person in class a question. We went through in a numbered order so our conversation would build on each other, and that was all intentional. So we left off with number 25, and the question is, how can you expect technology to affect your classroom? There are lots of things to say about this. Students have access to technology in ways they didn't before. For some reason, you never read about, teachers complaining that their kids showed up with like a point-and-shoot camera, or kids, came to school with those big, huge, clunky video recorders when they first came out, the video cams. But kids have access to smartphones, and most know how to use them. It's also very common for kids to have like iPad-ish, tablet-type things. Laptops definitely come up. And then there's a big piece, like TCC is a place that's doing this, where there's a big push from administration to include a digital literacy component. So it's very likely that you'll have students who maybe don't know how to write cursive, but it's your job to make sure they learn to keyboard into a computer. Also, your assignments won't necessarily just be about writing. You'll require your students to type, and you probably had to do that too. Technology affects learning in lots of ways. It also affects the social part of teaching in a big way. I don't need to talk a lot about what we've seen as far as like bullying online, cyberbullying, and stuff like that. And those are things we'll talk more about as the semester goes on, but they are important. Number 26 was give a brief description of a rural school. R-U-R-A-L. A rural school is in a rural community. A rural community is typically a place where not a lot of people live, and some people would label it as country. A lot of times kids that live in rural communities, there might be one school in an area that serves several or multiple towns. Or maybe like your town has the elementary school, but when it's time for middle school or high school, you have to take a bus to another town because there's just not enough people to have a school in each community. Next one is a brief description of a suburban school. A suburban school is a school that's in a place that is a community established outside of a big city, or quote, suburbia. So examples of that would be like, what's the name of that town I'm thinking of in New York? There's tons of them, but outside of New York City, like any spot that's a small town. So last year, or the year before last, my family and I moved to Boston. We lived in a suburb of Boston in Westford. So my kids went to a suburban school. Not an urban school, a suburban school. And then the last one is a description of an urban school. An urban school is one that's in a big city. So if we look at really quickly like some of the very stereotypical problems of each of these, usually rural schools and urban schools are underfunded. There's larger amounts of minority students at those schools. In suburban schools, it's fewer minority students, and then you have things like more home ownership, so they get more money because tax dollars from home ownership is how lots of schools get money. More parental involvement. Most of the parents of kids in suburban schools went to college themselves and stuff like that. And then the last one is number 29, which is, I wrote it down on this slip of paper. I can't really read it. Hold on, I'm going to open my notes. That might be helpful. If I can't find it, we won't worry about it too much. All right, I think I found it. Number 29's question is, what are academic standards? So academic standards, I wrote common EXP. That could have been short for anything. Common expectations for students to have at the end of the school year, and that is correct. Academic standards are when we set a criteria, like this is the bar, and we want all of our kids to reach this bar. And if you go past it, great, but we're really shooting for you to get here. All right, so that takes us through the last of those questions from the discussion we had last week. I will post this video and make another one with instructions for your online assignment for this week. Bye!